There are 14 mower brands that most people have completely forgotten about. Some of them you have never heard of. A few of them you probably remember rusting in a neighbor's garage and never thought twice about. That was a mistake. Every single one of them is built better than what you can buy new today. I am going through all 14, what made them different, and how to find one that still runs. Before we start, here are 4 checks you run on every vintage mower before you hand over any money. These take 5 minutes and they will save you from buying someone else's problem. First, tap the deck with your knuckle. A heavy deck rings solid. A thin deck flexes or sounds tinny. This is a quick feel test. Also inspect for rust through, cracks around the spindle mounts, and stress points at the discharge chute. Second, find the grease zerks on the blade spindles. If they are there, the machine was built to be maintained. If they are missing or plugged, someone already started making compromises. Third, pull the air cleaner and look at the carburetor body. Metal construction means you can rebuild it for under $20. Plastic means you are 1 storage season away from a replacement. Fourth, check the fuel tank and lines. Metal or plastic, what matters is that the tank is clean, sealed, and properly mounted, and the lines are not cracked or gummy. Run these 4 checks on every machine on this list. Let us start with the one that surprises people the most. Number 1, Bohlins, pre-1985. If you find an estate rider from this era with a cast iron Kohler K-Series engine, you are looking at a machine that was overbuilt by every modern standard. The deck gauge on these machines would be considered commercial spec now. The Kohler K-Series had a full cast iron block, cast iron cylinder head, and a metal carburetor with replaceable jets. Nothing sealed, nothing disposable. Every part serviceable with tools you already own. Bohlins became part of Gardenway in the late 1980s, and MTD later acquired the Bohlins and Troy built assets out of Gardenway's 2001 bankruptcy. The name still exists on machines at the hardware store. Do not confuse them. The modern Bohlins is a platform share with entry-level MTD products. The old Bohlins is a different machine entirely. Target anything pre-1985 with a Kohler K-Series under the hood. Number 2, Jacobsen, 1970s through the 1980s. These were not consumer machines. Jacobsen built commercial walk-behinds and riders for golf courses and municipal grounds crews. Heavy steel decks, spindles with grease zerks, repackable bearings, engines matched to the work, not undersized to hit a price point. Jacobsen's professional turf history goes back to the 1920s. They built a professional greens mower in 1923. Textron acquired the company in 1975 and repositioned it as commercial only. Most consumers have never heard the name. The older machines still show up at farm auctions, estate sales, and occasionally on classifieds for prices that make no sense given what they actually are. If you find one, check the spindles first. If the zerks are still there and the deck has not rusted through at the weld points, you are holding something that was built to be repaired, not replaced. But here is where this list starts to get interesting, because the next brand built something nobody else was willing to build. Number 3, Yazoo, 1960s through the 1990s, the big wheel models. If you have never seen one in person, the first thing that hits you is the size of the rear wheels and the weight of the steel in the deck. These machines were designed for tall, rough grass, the kind of cutting that destroys a consumer mower in a single season. The deck construction was heavy gauge welded steel at stress points that other manufacturers were already beginning to stamp and bend instead of weld. The Yazoo brand was eventually discontinued entirely. That makes surviving examples more valuable, not less. When you find one, inspect the deck welds carefully. Many Yazoo big wheel machines were heavily built, but cracks and old repairs still matter on any welded deck regardless of the brand. A CPSC document from that era describes Yazoo mowers as industrial grade. that description was accurate. Number 4, IH Cub Cadet, the original International Harvester Cub Cadets. Not the current MTD-owned Cub Cadet, not the mid-90s transition models. The machines that carried International Harvester Engineering DNA, IH brought agricultural equipment thinking to the lawn and garden market starting in 1961, and the result was a machine that was over-engineered for residential use, which is exactly what you want. Cast construction throughout the drivetrain, shaft drive, serviceable everything. Target IH-built Cub Cadets and verify by serial number, especially around the 1981 transition when production shifted away from IH engineering. The collector community around original Cub Cadets is active and organized, which means parts availability is still reasonable decades later. Number 5, Gravely, the walk-behind tractors. The original Gravely walk-behind two-wheel tractors are in a category by themselves. These were not mowers in the conventional sense. They were walking tractors with a mowing attachment as one of many implement options. Snowblower, tiller, sickle bar, rotary mower, all on the same power unit. The construction was agricultural. A well-maintained Gravely walk-behind from the 1960s or 70s will still run today. The brand later became part of Ariens through the 1982 acquisition, but the vintage walk-behind machines are a completely different product from the current Gravely commercial line. The collector and user community is active, and parts are available through specialty suppliers. If you find one at an estate sale, the weight alone tells you what you are dealing with. Those 5 brands are the ones worth the deepest look if you find them at an auction or an estate sale. But there are 9 more on this list. And the history behind some of them explains exactly how the mower industry went from building machines that lasted 30 years to building machines that last 5. The complete identification guide and inspection protocol for all 14 brands, including model year cutoffs, engine cross-references, and parts supplier contacts, covers everything you need to evaluate any of these machines before you.
People spend a whole season chasing one mower problem across a dozen forums and YouTube videos and never find a straight answer, because the real know-how is scattered in 100 pieces, and half of it's wrong. A mower that lasts isn't built different, it's maintained different.
The new Make It Last maintenance protocol puts the whole thing in one place.
What actually kills these mowers, how to spot trouble in your engine before it dies, what's worth fixing, and which parts to buy without getting jerked around at the dealer.
Walk behind or riding, there's one for both, plus a printable maintenance calendar in every book.
Scan the QR code or tap the link up top, code MarkTalksQuality for 15% off. Make it last.
Bye. Now let us keep going. 9 more brands. Number 6, Wheelhorse, the 300 series. Specifically the 312 through 316, including the hydrostatic models. These machines came out of South Bend, Indiana. Toro acquired Wheelhorse in 1986, and some of the most sought-after 300 series models, including the 312H, were actually produced during the Toro era in the early 1990s with Kohler engines and hydrostatic transmissions. The transmission design was conservative. Not cutting edge, not complex, but not fragile either. If you find a Wheelhorse 300 series, check the hours if there is a meter, look at the deck for rust through at the rear discharge, and verify the hydro fluid has been changed at some point in the last decade. The Wheelhorse name is gone. The machines are not. Number 7, Allis-Chalmers, the B series. Target the HB112 and HB212 hydrostatic drive models specifically. The H designation refers to hydrostatic drive, not simply hydraulic lift. That is a common misidentification. Allis-Chalmers brought agricultural equipment thinking to their garden tractor line, and the result was a machine with hydraulic systems far more robust than what consumer brands were installing at the same time. The brand was eventually absorbed, and the garden tractor line disappeared entirely. But the machines themselves are still around. The orange paint is distinctive. If you see it at an auction, stop and look. These machines show up from estates where someone bought one in the late 1970s and used it until they could not anymore. The construction tells you why they lasted that long. Number 8. Simplicity. The Broadmoor models. Pre-acquisition. What the pre-consolidation Broadmoor represented was a hydrostatic drive system in a consumer-grade garden tractor at a time when most machines were still running gear drives. The older Simplicity Hydro models had serviceable transmissions, cast components throughout the drivetrain, and deck construction that held up to decades of use. Briggs & Stratton acquired Simplicity in 2004 and began platform consolidation, standardizing components across their brand portfolio to hit cost targets. Quality differences should be judged by model, series, and components rather than by acquisition date alone. But if you are shopping for a Simplicity, anything built before consolidation changed the spec sheets is worth close attention. The machines that came out the other side of that consolidation carried the Simplicity name, but not necessarily the Simplicity engineering. Number 9. Lawn Boy. Pre-1990, before Toro ownership changed the engineering priorities. Toro acquired Lawn Boy from Outboard Marine Corporation in 1989. The die-cast aluminum deck on a vintage Lawn Boy is one of the most underappreciated pieces of engineering in residential outdoor power equipment. Aluminum does not rust. A die-cast aluminum deck that was properly built in 1975 is still a solid deck today. The two-stroke engines in the older models had a reputation for running forever on basic maintenance. Many older Lawn Boy two-strokes used serviceable ignition systems, though ignition type varies by model and year. Not all pre-1990 models had points and condenser. If you find one, check the deck for cracks at the discharge chute mounting points and the front axle bracket. Those are the first places aluminum fatigue shows up. If it is clean there, the rest of the machine is probably clean too. Number 10. Case. The older garden tractors. The Case 444 and 446 in particular are notable for hydraulic drive layouts and heavy garden tractor construction that came directly from Casey's construction equipment thinking. The machines that show up at estate sales and farm auctions tend to be undervalued because the Case name in outdoor power is not as recognized as it is in heavy iron. That undervaluation is your opportunity. Verify the hydraulic system condition before buying. Check the fluid level, look for leaks at the pump and the cylinder connections, and test the implement lift under load. The hydraulic system is the heart of these machines, and it is what separates them from every gear drive competitor from the same era. Number 11. Dixon. The company that invented the zero-turn mower. Dixon Industries in Coffeyville, Kansas built the first zero-turn radius mower in 1974. Most people have never heard of them, but every zero-turn mower on the market today descends from the concept Dixon created. The early Dixon ZTR models used a cone drive system that was mechanically simple, durable, and easy to service. These machines show up at auctions and on classifieds regularly because enough of them were sold that a supply still exists. The cone drive units from the 1980s and early 90s are the ones to target. Later models shifted to hydrostatic drive, and the brand eventually changed ownership multiple times. The early cone drive machines are the ones the community values. They are the originals. Number 12. Bush Hog. Early zero-turn riders from the mid-1990s. Most people know Bush Hog as a rotary cutter brand, the big 3-point hitch units for tractors. But Bush Hog was founded in Selma, Alabama in 1951 and built commercial zero-turn mowers with heavy welded deck construction. Some models used 7-gauge steel decks, that is a commercial construction spec that most current consumer-grade zero-turns do not approach. The first generation Bush Hog zero-turns show up at equipment dealers and auctions at prices that do not reflect what they actually are. because people see the name and think rotary cutters, not mowers. If you are looking for a commercial grade zero turn and you find an early bush hog, do not walk past it. Verify deck specs by model before buying. Number 13, Ransoms. Ipswich, Suffolk, England. This is the world's oldest lawnmower manufacturer. The company traces its history to 1789 and built the first commercially produced lawnmower in 1832. The commercial rotary and reel mowers from the 1970s and 80s that occasionally show up in the United States came through commercial turf import channels. Heavy steel, serviceable, everything. The reel mowers in particular are worth knowing about. They cut with a scissor action that a rotary blade cannot replicate, and they show up at golf course equipment auctions when courses upgrade their fleet. A Ransom's commercial reel mower from the 1970s, properly maintained, still delivers the cleanest cut you will ever see on grass. The documentation is sparse on this side of the Atlantic, but the machine itself will tell you what you need to know. Run the 4-point inspection. Number 14, Victa, Australia. Founded by Mervyn Victor Richardson in 1952, Victa built machines for the Australian lawn care environment, which is rougher on equipment than most American conditions. Early, Victa models are known for rugged construction built around conditions that destroyed ordinary mowers. Deck material varies by model and era, so do not assume every Victa is die-cast aluminum. Check the specific model. Victa was later acquired by Briggs and Stratton in 2008. The pre-acquisition machines that occasionally show up through import channels and specialty dealers represent a standard of construction that was not common in American consumer equipment from the same period. They are rare finds in the United States, but if you encounter one, the inspection criteria are the same as every other machine on this list. Now here is the thread that connects all 14 of these brands. Every machine on this list was built during a period when the engineering priority was service life, not purchase price. The materials were heavier because the expected use was longer. The components were accessible because the assumption was that someone would need to get to them. The grease fittings were present because maintenance was understood to be part of ownership, not an inconvenience to be engineered around. The transition away from that philosophy did not happen all at once. It happened brand by brand, acquisition by acquisition, between roughly 1985 and 2005. Boland's went into MTD through the Gardenway bankruptcy. Jacobson went into Textron. Yazoo was discontinued outright. Simplicity was consolidated by Briggs and Stratton. Wheelhorse was absorbed by Toro. Alice Chalmers disappeared. Dixon changed hands until the original engineering was gone. Each time, cost reduction targets drove the same changes. Thinner gauge, sealed bearings, plastic carburetors, lighter construction. The machines that came out the other side of those acquisitions carried the original names, but not the original engineering. That is the gap this list is designed to close. Here is what you do right now. Go to the classifieds in your area. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, estate sale listings, farm auction catalogs, and search every brand on this list. When you find one, run the 4-point inspection. Tap the deck. Find the zerks. Check the carburetor material. Check the tank and line condition. Those 5 minutes will tell you whether the machine in front of you was built to last or built to be replaced. The machines on this list did not survive by accident. They survived because they were built with heavier materials, accessible components, and an engineering philosophy that assumed the owner would maintain the machine and the machine would reward that maintenance with decades of service. The industry moved away from that model. We are not obligated to follow. Find the machine, run the inspection, buy the one that rings solid when you tap it. The complete identification guide and inspection protocol for all 14 brands is in the description. What brand are you running right now? If it is on this list, tell us the model and the year. If you found one of these at an auction or an estate sale, tell us what you paid and what condition it was in. That information is useful for everyone watching.